It's a typical afternoon at high school. The bell rings, signaling the start of lunch. As students swarm into the cafeteria, one boy catches everyone's attention. It's not because of the usual reasons, not because of flashy shoes, a popular brand, or an Instagram-worthy outfit. No, this boy is wearing thrift store clothes, a simple, modest jacket with faded jeans, shoes that have clearly seen better days. His appearance is an obvious target. Whispers begin to circulate around the lunchroom, followed by muffled giggles and outright laughter. The kind of laughter that stings, the kind that builds up a wall of shame around him. You can almost hear the whispers. Does he really think that looks good? How embarrassing. The boy's face flushes, his shoulders slump as he walks down the aisle of the cafeteria, heading toward the last empty seat in the room. You, the viewer, might think this is where the story ends. You might think, oh, that's sad, just another kid getting picked on, no big deal. But wait, you'd be wrong. Because what happens next is something that no one, not even those laughing at him, could have predicted. A single moment, an unexpected move, that flips everything on its head. This is the moment where the boy gives a speech that no one will forget, including you, the viewer, who can't look away. Keep watching because you're about to find out why this speech will change the way you look at how people are judged. Now, I know you've seen stories like this before. You've probably watched other videos where the outcast finally stands up for themselves, where the bully gets their comeuppance, or the underdog shows they're stronger than anyone thought. But this story is different. This story isn't just about standing up to the bullies. It's about something deeper. Something that many people don't talk about enough. Something that might make you rethink your own beliefs. But before I tell you that, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt judged because of something you couldn't control? Maybe it was the clothes you wore, or your appearance. Maybe it was your background, or the way you spoke. What happens when you feel like an outsider, and everyone around you is laughing, whispering, pointing fingers? It's easy to feel small in those moments, to shrink into yourself, to wonder if things will ever get better. But this boy? He does something most people don't expect, and it's something that could change everything you thought you knew about people, perception, and the truth that lies behind the surface. But before we dive deeper, I need you to make a promise. Stick with me, stay through the entire video, and trust that by the end, you'll have a perspective shift, a fresh take on something we all deal with in one way or another. Don't click away, because you're about to experience something that will leave you thinking long after the video ends. Trust me, I wouldn't say it if it weren't worth it. Now, let's talk about the cafeteria scene again. The laughter echoes throughout the room, and the boy makes his way to the back of the cafeteria where a few empty tables sit. He takes a deep breath before sitting down, setting his lunch tray down with precision, but there's no smile, no sense of ease. This is a moment of vulnerability. But even as the group of boys snickers behind him, something happens. Something shifts in the way the atmosphere feels. His head doesn't bow in defeat. His body doesn't shrink into the corner. In fact, he doesn't seem affected by their laughter at all. He reaches into his backpack, pulls out a piece of paper, and stands up again, taking a deep breath as he walks to the center of the room. The room goes quiet. At first, people assume it's a joke, a prank, some sort of odd social experiment. But what happens next completely catches everyone off guard. Without saying a word, the boy slowly unfolds the paper, clears his throat, and begins to speak. What does he say? Well, you'll have to stick around to hear it. Because the words he says in that cafeteria, to a room full of students who'd already written him off as nothing more than a target for ridicule, have the power to shift the entire energy of the room. It's not just a speech. It's a wake-up call, not just for those kids laughing at him, but for all of us. It's a call to stop judging people by their appearance, to challenge the stereotypes we create, and to consider what really matters in life. As you watch, I want you to think about how often you've judged someone, maybe not in such an obvious way, but we all do it. It's natural, right? We're taught to assess people quickly based on how they look, what they wear, and how they act. But what if we were wrong? What if we miss something? This speech is about uncovering the truth we often overlook, and it might just change the way you see the world. It might even make you question your own judgments, the ones you've been carrying for years. The boy's words start slow at first, hesitant, as if he's unsure of how they'll be received. But soon, his voice grows more confident, and the whole room feels the change in the air. It's no longer just a cafeteria. It's a moment of truth, a moment where someone speaks for more than just themselves. You might even feel a shift inside yourself as you listen, wondering if you've ever been the one laughing at someone else's expense. But as the boy continues, it's clear, this isn't just a speech about him. It's about us all, the way we see each other, the way we perceive value and worth. This is the moment that will define the rest of the day, not just for him, but for everyone in that room. And for you, too, watching from your screen, waiting to see what happens next. What will the crowd do? How will they respond? Will they keep laughing, or will they finally listen? But I'm not going to spoil the end for you just yet. You need to hear it for yourself. This is where you'll want to stick around to see how this boy, this so-called outcast in thrift store clothes, turns the tables and forces everyone to reevaluate their assumptions. Because when you hear what he says, when you understand what he's truly trying to convey, you'll realize this isn't just a typical high school story. This is a story of self-respect, personal power, and the realization that people are so much more than what they wear or what they look like.
So sit tight.
The speech is coming, and believe me, you won't want to miss it. Keep watching, because the twist in this story might just surprise you. You won't see this one coming. Trust me, by the time you hear what he has to say, you'll be thinking long after the video ends. The cafeteria falls into a heavy silence as the boy stands at the center, his paper still in hand. His name is Jacob, but that's not something most people in the cafeteria even care to know. To them, he's just the kid who doesn't quite fit in, the one whose clothes look out of place, whose shoes have been worn down from years of use. It's easy to write someone like Jacob off, especially in a school where appearances seem to matter more than anything else. The whispers had started long before this day. It wasn't just the thrift store jacket or the old sneakers, it was his demeanor. Jacob had always kept to himself, avoiding the spotlight, not because he was shy or insecure, but because he had learned the hard way that it was safer that way. Growing up in a small, working-class neighborhood, Jacob had always been different from the others. While most of the kids around him came from families that could afford to buy the latest trends, Jacob's family had always struggled. His mom worked long hours at a local diner, barely making ends meet, while his dad had left when Jacob was just a toddler. The love and warmth from his mother had always been enough to get him through the rough patches, but it was clear to everyone around him that his family wasn't one of those picture-perfect families. The whispers followed Jacob everywhere, at school, on the bus, even in the hallways. People didn't know his story, didn't understand the battles he faced every day, and they certainly didn't care. It was easier to laugh at him, to judge him, than to try to see the world through his eyes. But there's something about Jacob that people didn't see, something that had been brewing in him for years. Jacob wasn't weak. He wasn't broken. In fact, the more people made fun of him, the more he'd grown determined to prove them wrong. It wasn't the first time he'd been mocked for his clothes or his outdated style. But it was different today. Today, something felt different. Over the last few weeks, Jacob had been quietly observing. He'd been noticing how people treated him and how they treated others. He saw the way the popular kids paraded around in their brand new outfits, while the quieter students, the ones with less money, were pushed to the edges of the social circle. He'd also been watching how people treated the new students, the ones who didn't know how to blend in, who didn't get the subtle social cues of high school life. Jacob had been silent, but in his silence, he'd been gathering something, a kind of inner strength, a quiet fire that would eventually ignite when the time was right. And today it felt like that time had come. As the lunch hour stretched on, and the mocking laughter continued, Jacob had already made his decision. He wasn't going to let them laugh at him anymore. Not because he couldn't take it, but because he realized something that no one else in that cafeteria had. Their laughter wasn't just about him. It was about the way they viewed everyone who didn't fit into their narrow definition of success, of what worthy looked like. It was about a system of judgment that ran deep in their world, one that had been ingrained in them for years. And that was the system Jacob was going to expose, not with violence, not with anger, but with words that would cut deeper than any punch ever could. As he stands in the center of the cafeteria, Jacob's mind isn't on the laughter. It's on something far more significant, a lesson he's learned over the years, a lesson that, to him, is far more important than any fleeting moment of popularity or approval. Jacob understands that people often miss the most important parts of a person, not the clothes they wear or the way they speak, but what's inside them, the strength they carry silently, the fire that can't be extinguished by the shallow judgments of others. But as the students stare at him now, waiting to hear what he will do, there are some who still don't get it. There are a few faces in the crowd, a few people who are almost too smug, too self-assured in their privilege, to realize they're about to be caught in a trap of their own making. There's Ethan, the star of the football team, who's always been quick to laugh at anyone who's not part of his inner circle. Then there's Madison, the head cheerleader, who has a way of looking at people as if they're beneath her. She's sitting with her group, eyes wide, eager to see what Jacob will do next, but it's clear she doesn't think this speech will be anything more than a moment of embarrassment for him. These are the people who have ruled the social hierarchy of the school for years, the ones who never had to question their place, never had to wonder if they were truly valued by the world. For them, life has been simple until now. As Jacob begins to speak, the room is still. His voice isn't loud, but it carries a weight that makes everyone listen. He doesn't start with an accusation, doesn't start with a personal story. Instead, he begins with a question. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be someone else for a day? To walk in someone else's shoes? To live their life, with all the things they carry, the things they can't change, and the things they wish they could? His question lingers in the air, heavy and thoughtful, as the room goes quiet. It's a simple question, but it feels profound. And then he goes deeper, talking about how we judge others based on things that don't matter, the brand of their clothes, the way they talk, the way they look. He speaks about how these judgments define people before they even get the chance to speak for themselves, to show who they really are. At first, the crowd is still, unsure of where this is going. Some of them exchange confused glances, while others lean in a little closer, intrigued by this boy who's never spoken up before. There's something unsettling about it, though. Something that makes their smirks fade just a little bit. But there's still a few who think this is just a moment for them to laugh off, to mock. Yet, as Jacob continues to speak, as his words gain weight, something begins to shift. You can see the doubt creeping into the faces of the ones who had been so confident in their social superiority. What had started as a moment of amusement is turning into something far more complicated. But it's not enough just to speak out. Jacob knows that. He knows the room will need more than just words to change the way they think, to shake their understanding of what really matters. And as his speech nears its climax, you can feel the tension building. Just when you think you have it all figured out, just when you think you know what's coming next, Jacob drops a truth that no one expected. The twist isn't what he says, but how it makes everyone in that room look at themselves. How it forces them to realize that maybe, just maybe, they've been living in a bubble that was about to burst wide open. And that's when you, as the viewer, will realize something far more significant than anything Jacob says. This isn't just a high school story. It's a reminder that we all have things we hide, things we wish we could change, things that define us far beyond what anyone sees on the surface. And by the time Jacob finishes his speech, you'll be left wondering, was this moment about him, or was it about all of us? As Jacob's speech begins to reverberate through the cafeteria, something unexpected happens. His words, powerful and piercing, don't just stir the crowd. They shift the atmosphere in a way that no one, least of all Jacob, could have predicted. For a brief moment, it seems like his mission to expose the shallow judgments and stereotypes that have bound this school is going to work. He can see the uncertainty in some faces, the flicker of recognition in others. But just as quickly as it starts, the calm is shattered. The bell rings, signaling the end of lunch, and with it, the spell is broken. The students begin to shuffle out, still whispering, but now there's something else in the air, tension. Something is shifting, and Jacob knows it. The next day, Jacob returns to his usual routine. He knows that speaking out in the cafeteria wasn't just about making a statement, it was a call to action, and he needs to be ready for the fallout. He doesn't expect things to change overnight, but he's hoping that something, even just a small shift, will take root. But as he arrives at school, he notices something strange. The whispering is louder today, but it's not the kind of gossip he's used to. It's more pointed, more guarded. His classmates seem to be eyeing him a little too closely, their glances lingering in a way that feels almost conspiratorial. He shakes it off, thinking he's overthinking things. After all, how could a simple speech in the cafeteria cause such a stir? But as the day goes on, Jacob starts to notice something else. His backpack is missing. He'd left it by his locker in the morning, just like any other day, but now it's gone. At first, he assumes it's a prank. Someone must have moved it as a joke. But when he checks his locker, he finds it locked, the combination spinning freely without the familiar weight of his things inside. It's a small detail, but one that immediately sets off a feeling of unease deep in his gut. By the time school ends, Jacob is on edge. He's been looking for his backpack all day, but it's nowhere to be found. That's when he sees a familiar face, Ethan, the quarterback, strolling past him with a smirk on his face. Ethan had always been one of the loudest voices in the cafeteria the day before, the one who laughed the hardest at Jacob's expense. Now, he's walking with an air of smugness that feels off, almost as if he knows something Jacob doesn't. As Ethan passes, Jacob feels a flash of instinct. Something isn't right. But before he can act on it, Ethan's phone buzzes, and he's distracted. Jacob watches as Ethan disappears into the crowd, but the unease lingers. Later that evening, as Jacob's searching through his room in frustration, his phone buzzes. It's a message from an unknown number. Stop looking for things that aren't yours. Some things are better left buried. The message is short, but its meaning is clear. Someone doesn't want him digging any deeper. Someone is trying to send a warning, and it's not the kind of warning Jacob can easily ignore. The cryptic nature of the message makes him hesitate for a moment, but he knows he can't back down now. He has to get to the bottom of what's going on. The next day, the mystery only deepens. Jacob's phone starts ringing with calls from a number he doesn't recognize. When he finally picks up, a voice on the other end is distorted, as if deliberately trying to obscure its identity. The person on the line is clear, though, and their words are unnervingly specific. I know what you're trying to do. You won't get the answers you're looking for. Not unless you stop now. The voice pauses for a moment, letting the silence hang heavily in the air. It's not just about your speech. There's more at play here than you realize. Trust me, you'll wish you never started asking questions. Before Jacob can respond, the line goes dead. The chill that runs through him now is nothing like the unease he felt earlier. This feels more serious, more personal, and now Jacob knows he's getting too close to something bigger than he ever imagined. As the days pass, Jacob starts to notice patterns, things that don't quite add up. His phone keeps buzzing with strange messages, and his classmates start acting differently around him. But the most unsettling thing of all is the sudden disappearance of his best friend, Ben. Ben, who had been the one person Jacob could always count on, the one who had always had his back, is nowhere to be found. His phone goes straight to voicemail, and his locker is empty. Even his seat in class is vacant, as though he just disappeared without a trace. Jacob can't shake the feeling that Ben's disappearance is somehow connected to everything that's been happening. But every lead he tries to follow seems to circle back to a dead end. He reaches out to a teacher, hoping for some kind of explanation, but when he mentions Ben's name, the teacher goes pale and quickly changes the subject, as though she's afraid of something or someone. As Jacob digs deeper, he uncovers a trail of strange occurrences that don't add up. A key piece of evidence he was sure he had, a photo from the day of the speech, showing some students laughing in the background, has mysteriously vanished from his phone. Even stranger, it looks as though someone had gone through his files, deleting anything that might be linked to the day of the speech. But the most unsettling part comes late one evening, when Jacob receives an unexpected visitor. It's a man he doesn't recognize, someone dressed in a nondescript suit, who shows up at his doorstep just as Jacob is getting ready for bed. The man doesn't introduce himself, doesn't offer any pleasantries. Instead, he looks Jacob in the eyes with a cold, calculating stare and says, "You need to stop looking into things you don't understand." There are people who don't want the truth to come out. People who will do whatever it takes to make sure it stays hidden. Before Jacob can respond, the man turns and walks away, disappearing into the night. Jacob is left standing in the doorway, his heart racing. Whoever this man is, whoever is behind all of this, they're not playing games anymore. And the further Jacob pushes, the more dangerous it becomes. With every new clue, every mysterious message, the stakes are rising higher than Jacob could have ever imagined. But as he contemplates the growing threats against him, he can't help but wonder, who can he trust? What's the real reason behind all of this? And why does it feel like someone is always one step ahead of him, pulling the strings behind the scenes? The answers are just out of reach, and the truth seems farther away than ever. But Jacob can't stop now, not when he's so close to uncovering the secrets that have been buried for so long. The question is, how far is he willing to go to uncover them? As Jacob grapples with the mounting pressure and mysterious warnings, his world continues to spiral. Just when he thinks he's starting to understand the bigger picture, another unexpected twist sends everything into further chaos. It happens the following evening, when his younger sister, Lily, arrives home with a look of confusion and concern etched across her face. She's only 14, but there's a certain sharpness to her demeanor, one that has often made Jacob realize she's more observant than she lets on. Tonight, however, there's something different about her. She seems distracted, preoccupied, as if she's carrying a weight far too heavy for her age. When Jacob asks her what's wrong, she hesitates for a moment before pulling out her phone, showing him a strange message she received just hours earlier. It's eerily similar to the ones Jacob has been getting, cryptic, ominous, and filled with veiled threats. Stop digging, or the truth will destroy you. You can't undo what's been done. Jacob's heart sinks as he reads the message over and over. He doesn't want to drag Lily into this mess, but it's clear now that whatever is happening, it's not just affecting him. Someone is trying to scare those close to him, and the implications of that are far more dangerous than he could have imagined. Lily swears she doesn't know who could have sent the message, but Jacob can see the unease in her eyes. She's always been the type to keep her emotions under wraps, but the raw fear in her voice as she talks about the message reveals something much deeper, something that connects her to this growing web of mystery. And as much as Jacob wants to protect her from it, he knows that no one is safe anymore. The stakes have risen, and now, it's not just his own future at risk. Just as he begins to process this new complication, Jacob receives another call, this time from someone he didn't expect, Ben's mother. She's frantic on the phone, her voice shaking with a mix of worry and something else, something darker. She tells Jacob that she's been receiving calls too, threatening calls, warning her to stop asking questions about her son's sudden disappearance. Jacob's stomach churns. If Ben's mom is involved, then this thing is far bigger than just him and his school. Whoever is behind this has a way of reaching people, of pulling the strings in ways that don't make sense. And it's starting to feel like the more Jacob tries to piece together the puzzle, the more pieces disappear, leaving him grasping for answers that are just out of reach. The next day, something happens that shakes him to his core. A new piece of evidence arrives, but it's not what he expected. It's an old yearbook photo from 2 years ago, and it shows something strange. At first glance, it appears to be just another snapshot of his class, but as Jacob studies it, something stands out. There, in the background, is a figure he recognizes, but not someone he remembers seeing at school. It's a person dressed in black, almost blending into the shadows, standing at the edge of a group photo. Jacob knows this person. He doesn't remember them being there, but there's no mistaking the face. It's someone who is close to Ben, someone Jacob hadn't seen in months. Mia, Ben's ex-girlfriend. She'd disappeared from the scene shortly after Ben's disappearance, her name vanishing from the school's social circles like a ghost. But now, here she is, staring back at Jacob from that photo, her face half hidden, as if she's trying to avoid being seen. It's a chilling sight, and one that makes Jacob's blood run cold. Why was she there, and why hadn't anyone mentioned her? More importantly, what role does she play in all of this? Was she involved in Ben's disappearance? Or is she being manipulated into keeping silent about something far worse? Jacob decides to reach out to Mia, hoping she can shed some light on the situation, but when he tracks her down, he finds that she's vanished once again. No one at the school seems to know where she's gone, and her phone has been disconnected. The sudden disappearance of Mia only deepens the mystery, leaving Jacob with more questions than answers. Was she a witness to something crucial? Is she in hiding, or has she been silenced? As Jacob tries to make sense of it all, he begins to wonder if the threads he's been pulling at have led him to a deeper conspiracy, one that involves more people than he ever imagined. His instincts are screaming at him to be careful, but there's a gnawing feeling in the pit of his stomach that tells him to keep going, to follow the trail wherever it leads. In the midst of this, something else happens that further complicates things. A familiar face shows up unexpectedly. Ethan, the same quarterback who had mocked Jacob's speech in the cafeteria. This time, however, he's not laughing. His usual smug demeanor is gone, replaced by an uneasy tension that Jacob doesn't understand. Ethan approaches him cautiously, almost as if he's afraid of what he's about to say. He pulls Jacob aside, away from prying eyes, and whispers, "You don't know what you're getting into. There's more to all of this than you think. You don't want to keep digging. Trust me." Before Jacob can respond, Ethan walks away, disappearing into the crowd without another word. It's clear now that Ethan knows something he's not sharing, something that could explain his strange behavior. But what could it be? Is Ethan involved in this tangled web of secrets, or is he just another pawn in a much larger game? Jacob can't shake the feeling that there's more to Ethan than meets the eye, and that this brief encounter is just another piece of the puzzle, a puzzle that seems to be growing more dangerous with each passing moment. As Jacob contemplates these new developments, he begins to see the full scope of what he's up against. Every turn leads to more questions, more dead ends, and more uncertainty. But one thing is clear: someone or something is actively working to keep the truth buried. The closer Jacob gets, the more dangerous the situation becomes. And as the days drag on, he can't help but wonder how far he's willing to go to uncover the secrets that have been hidden for so long. Who can he trust? What is the real story behind Ben's disappearance? And how many people are watching, waiting for him to slip up? The stakes are higher than ever, and with every new twist, Jacob knows that the path forward is only going to get more treacherous. The sense of unease that Jacob had been carrying for days suddenly becomes something more. Something real. Something terrifying. It happens one night, after he gets a late-night text from Lily. She's asking if he's okay, and for a moment he's confused. He'd spoken to her earlier, and everything had seemed fine. But the way she worded the text, "Are you sure you're all right? I feel like something's wrong," sends a chill down his spine. He can't explain it, but something about her tone feels off. It's not like her to be so anxious. Jacob tries to shake it off, telling himself he's just paranoid. But as the minutes tick by, that gnawing feeling deep inside him grows louder. His thoughts race through everything that's happened in the past few days. The threats, the strange messages, Mia's disappearance, Ethan's cryptic warning. All of it feels interconnected now, like pieces of a puzzle that won't fit together no matter how hard he tries. And then there's Lily's message, hanging in the air, unsettling and cryptic. His gut tells him something is wrong, and he can't ignore it. Against his better judgment, Jacob grabs his jacket and heads to Lily's room to make sure she's all right. The house is unusually quiet, too quiet. As he makes his way upstairs, a sudden noise outside catches his attention. A faint rustling sound coming from the back of the house. It's probably nothing, he tells himself. Maybe just the wind or an animal in the yard, but there's no way he can dismiss it now. The hairs on the back of his neck stand up, and his heart starts pounding in his chest. For the first time in days, he feels the true weight of the situation. This isn't just some strange mystery he's been caught in. This is something far darker. He opens the door to Lily's room, but to his shock, it's empty. The bed is neatly made and the lights are still on, but Lily is nowhere to be found. Panic rises in his chest as his mind races. He searches the house frantically, calling her name, but there's no response. His eyes dart to the front door, slightly ajar, as though it's been left open deliberately. His blood runs cold. The door is wide enough that anyone could have slipped in or out without making a sound. But it's more than that. Something about the way it's left open feels calculated, like whoever did it wanted him to find it this way. He bolts down the stairs and heads outside, his breath coming in shallow gasps. The backyard is empty, and the night is eerily still. He calls out for Lily again, but the sound of his voice echoes through the silence, unanswered. The fear inside him intensifies, and his mind flashes to the worst-case scenario. What if someone had taken her? What if she's in danger, just like Ben, and he's too late to stop it? His thoughts race uncontrollably, and with every second that passes, the weight of the situation becomes more real, more terrifying. But it's then that he notices something that stops him dead in his tracks. A shadow in the distance, near the corner of the fence. It's fleeting, barely a blur, but it's enough to make his pulse spike. Someone is out there, watching him. His instincts scream at him to run, but his legs feel heavy, paralyzed by the fear that has now completely taken over. He can't breathe. He can't think. Everything inside him tells him to turn back, but he can't. He has to find Lily. He has to get answers. Jacob takes a few slow steps toward the shadow, his heart hammering in his chest. As he nears the fence, a cold gust of wind sweeps past him, carrying with it a faint whisper, something barely audible, but enough to send a jolt of terror through him. "It's too late, Jacob." The words hang in the air, drifting like smoke, and he whips around, but there's no one there. The yard is empty again. His breath comes in ragged gasps as he fights to calm his racing heart. He's not imagining it. Someone has been here, someone who's watching his every move. Suddenly, his phone buzzes in his pocket. With trembling hands, Jacob pulls it out and sees a message from an unknown number. "You're too late. Stop digging, or you'll lose more than just your sister." The fear grips him tighter, suffocating him. The urgency is undeniable now. Whoever is behind this isn't just playing games anymore. They've taken his sister, and they're warning him to back off. But Jacob can't do that. He can't let them get away with it. He won't. With his mind spinning, Jacob races back into the house, his thoughts focused only on one thing, finding Lily before it's too late. But the house is silent again, empty, as if nothing had ever happened. It's as if Lily's disappearance was all in his head, a figment of his overactive imagination. But deep down, he knows the truth. Something is terribly wrong, and the truth is slipping further and further away with every moment. As he turns to leave the house again, he catches sight of something that freezes him in place. The window in the living room, which had been locked all night, is now wide open. His first instinct is to bolt out the door, but then something stops him. A memory, a thought, something that doesn't quite add up. Had he checked that window before? He can't remember. It's as if his entire sense of reality is shifting beneath him, and he's unsure of what's real anymore. The truth feels like it's slipping through his fingers, and the more he tries to grasp it, the more elusive it becomes. The phone buzzes again, and this time, Jacob hesitates. His thumb hovers over the screen, but he's almost afraid to look. The message he's about to read might be the final clue, or it might be the last thing he ever sees. But he can't stop now. He has to know who is behind all of this, who's pulling the strings, and why they've targeted his family. He takes a deep breath and presses open the message, not knowing that the moment he does, the true nightmare will begin. As Jacob stares down at the message on his phone, his hands shake, and a cold sweat forms on his brow. The words on the screen are seared into his mind. "You can't save her. It's already too late." For a split second, he considers giving up, turning his back on everything and walking away. The weight of the situation is unbearable. But then something catches his eye. The reflection in the window, faint, like a shadow, but unmistakable. It's Lily. His heart skips a beat, and without thinking, he rushes to the front door, throwing it open and stepping out into the night. He calls out her name, his voice hoarse with desperation, but there's no response. The yard is still. The night is eerily quiet, like the calm before a storm. But then, as his eyes scan the darkened corners of the house, something else catches his attention. A figure standing just beyond the tree line, barely visible but unmistakably familiar. Jacob's pulse quickens, and for a moment, he wonders if he's losing his mind. Could it really be her? Could she have somehow returned? But as he squints into the darkness, the figure moves, and a chill runs down his spine. It's not Lily. It's someone else entirely. Someone he didn't expect to see. Someone he thought he could trust. The figure steps into the dim light from the porch, and Jacob's stomach drops as the reality of the situation crashes into him. It's Ethan. His mind races.
Ethan? But why?
What was he doing out there, and why was he hiding in the shadows? Had he been involved in all of this from the start? Jacob's thoughts spiral as he stares at Ethan, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. Had Ethan known more than he let on? Had he been playing both sides, feeding him information and pretending to help, all while working against him? What are you doing here, Ethan? Jacob's voice cracks, and he takes a step forward, his chest tight with suspicion. Ethan doesn't immediately respond. Instead, he looks down at the ground, avoiding Jacob's gaze. A long, tense silence hangs between them, and Jacob's heart pounds in his chest. He's starting to realize that nothing about this situation is what it seemed. Everything he thought he understood, the clues, the threats, the mysterious messages, they were all part of something bigger, something far more sinister than he could have ever imagined. Finally, Ethan looks up, and there's something in his eyes that makes Jacob's blood run cold. It's a mixture of guilt and fear, something that doesn't fit with the confident, cool-headed persona Ethan had always put on. Ethan takes a hesitant step toward him, and Jacob's breath catches in his throat. "You don't understand, Jacob," Ethan says, his voice low, almost a whisper. "It's not what you think." Jacob feels a wave of anger rise within him. "Then explain it to me, Ethan. Explain why you've been acting so weird. Why you've been lying to me." Ethan hesitates again, glancing around nervously, as if checking for anyone who might be watching. "Because I had no choice," he finally admits, his voice cracking. "I was told to stay close to you. To keep an eye on you." Jacob's mind reels. Who told him to keep an eye on me? He tries to keep his composure, but everything inside him is screaming for answers. Who, Ethan? Who's pulling the strings here? Ethan looks around again, his eyes wild with fear. "I can't say. I just can't. If I tell you, they'll come after me too. But I can't let you get any deeper into this. I can't let you find out the truth. It's too dangerous." Jacob's mind races. This is the moment where everything changes, where all the pieces fall into place, except they don't. The truth isn't what he expected. In fact, it's worse than anything he could have imagined. He feels like he's standing on the edge of a cliff, and just when he thinks he's about to step back from the edge, someone shoves him into the unknown. Suddenly, as if to confirm his worst fears, the sound of a car engine revs in the distance. Jacob whips around, his heart racing. A black SUV is speeding toward them, the headlights cutting through the night like a spotlight. The hairs on the back of his neck stand on end as the vehicle screeches to a halt in front of the house, blocking his only escape. The door to the SUV opens, and out steps a figure Jacob recognizes all too well. It's Ben. The very same Ben he thought was long gone. The very same Ben whose disappearance had set everything into motion. But Ben doesn't look the same. His once friendly face is now cold, hardened. And the look in his eyes sends a shiver down Jacob's spine. "I didn't want it to come to this," Ben says, his voice flat and emotionless. "But you were getting too close, Jacob. You were digging into things you weren't supposed to. And now, well, now you've crossed a line." Jacob's breath catches in his throat as the pieces begin to fit together in a way he hadn't expected. Ben, Ethan, the threats, the disappearance of Lily. It was all connected. But the truth isn't what he thought it was. Ethan wasn't working against him. He was working with Ben all along. And now Jacob realizes the terrible reality. He's been caught in a web of lies, a trap so carefully crafted that he never even saw it coming. The weight of the betrayal sinks in. Jacob feels like the ground is falling out from under him. The world around him is spinning, and he can't trust anyone. Not even Ethan. Not even Ben. And worst of all, Lily, the one person he thought he could save, is further out of reach than he ever could have imagined. As Ben takes a step forward, a cold smile creeping across his face, Jacob knows there's no turning back now. The game has changed, and the stakes have never been higher. Who can I trust? Jacob thinks, but deep down he already knows the answer. The question now is, can I survive this? The truth, it seems, is more dangerous than anyone could have ever prepared for. Jacob stands frozen as Ben steps closer, his mind racing with 1,000 thoughts, none of them making sense. His heart pounds in his chest as Ben's cold, calculating eyes lock onto his. The weight of the situation presses down on him, the night air thick with tension. Ben's words echo in his mind. You've crossed a line, Jacob. The words reverberate in his skull, but it's not just what Ben said that chills him to the bone. It's the way he said it, as though everything had already been decided, as if Jacob's fate had already been sealed. His body tenses, adrenaline flooding his veins as he looks at Ethan, who stands awkwardly off to the side, eyes darting between him and Ben. Ethan's silence is deafening, and Jacob can't help but feel betrayed all over again. His mind fights to process everything, the lies, the secrecy, the betrayal. How could Ethan, his oldest friend, be part of this? How could he have known all along and never said a word? But the truth is, Jacob is no longer sure who he can trust, and it's starting to feel like no one in his life is as they seem. Ben steps closer, his voice low and calm. You know what has to happen now, right? You've dug too deep, and the truth you're looking for isn't something that can be uncovered. It's too dangerous, Jacob. You're not ready for it. No one is. Jacob's heart races as Ben's words sink in. The truth I'm looking for isn't something that can be uncovered. That sentence repeats in his mind like a riddle. He's been chasing answers, trying to put the pieces together, but now he's being told that the truth isn't something he's allowed to know. And the more Ben speaks, the more Jacob realizes the full weight of what's at stake. It's not just his life on the line anymore, it's everyone he cares about. His family, Lily, the people he thought he could protect. And that's when the ultimatum comes. Ben doesn't wait for Jacob to process the information. He gives the order with a single, cold sentence. You either walk away, Jacob, and forget everything, or we'll make sure you never get the chance to dig into this again. We'll make sure you're never a threat to anyone again. Jacob's pulse thunders in his ears. The words hit him like a ton of bricks, and for the first time in what feels like forever, he's paralyzed with fear. He wants to fight back. He wants to scream at Ben, call him out, make him pay for everything he's done. But as Ben's dark eyes fixate on him, Jacob knows that this is no longer a battle of right versus wrong. This is a battle for his survival, and the stakes have never been higher. But then something shifts. Something inside him snaps. He doesn't have to walk away. Not yet. Not when there's still a chance to make it right. But then, another voice cuts through his thoughts. It's Lily's voice, the one he's been hearing in his mind for days. Don't let them win, Jacob. Don't stop fighting. The memory of her face, her eyes full of trust, burns through him. He can't let her down. Suddenly, everything seems to come into sharper focus. There's no easy way out of this. If he walks away, he might live, but he'll have to carry the guilt of abandoning the people he loves. If he keeps pushing forward, if he keeps digging, there's no telling where this path will lead. Ben's eyes narrow, sensing Jacob's hesitation. You think you're strong enough for this, don't you? You think you can handle what's coming next? His voice is laced with mockery, but it only adds to the tension, making Jacob feel even more isolated. He knows that whatever happens next, it's going to change everything. But the more he thinks about it, the more he feels the weight of this impossible choice pressing down on him. The truth is, there is no safe way out. No matter which path he chooses, it will lead him further into a web of lies and deceit. Ethan speaks up, his voice hesitant. Jacob, please don't do this. You don't understand the whole picture. There are things you don't know, things I can't tell you, but please just let it go. It's not worth it. But Jacob doesn't want to hear it. Not anymore. He doesn't care about the lies Ethan's been feeding him. He doesn't care about the warnings. He's made up his mind. He can't stop now. He can't walk away and let these people, these dangerous, manipulative people, win. But at the same time, a part of him knows that moving forward means stepping into the unknown. It means choosing a path that could lead to his destruction. The stakes are higher than ever. As Jacob stands there, torn between fear and resolve, his mind races through the possibilities. If he presses forward, if he refuses to back down, what will happen to Lily? What will happen to those he's already put in danger? He can't let this drag anyone else into it. But if he lets Ben win, if he lets them silence him, then the truth will remain buried forever, and he'll never be able to live with himself. And then, as if on cue, another chilling thought crosses his mind. What if it's already too late? What if the damage has already been done, and no matter what decision he makes, it's too late to fix anything? The weight of the situation presses down on Jacob, suffocating him. The feeling of being trapped, caught between two impossible choices, makes him feel like he's suffocating. There's no easy way out. No simple solution. No one to turn to. Not even Ethan. As Ben steps closer, a dark smile curling on his lips, Jacob knows that whatever happens next will shape the rest of his life. But which choice will he make? Will he give in to the pressure and walk away? Or will he risk everything to uncover the truth, no matter the cost? The tension hangs in the air, thick and suffocating, as Jacob takes a deep breath and prepares to make his impossible choice. Jacob's heart races as he stands at the crossroads of his fate. The air is thick with the tension that has been building for days. Everything has led to this moment. The lies, the betrayals, the broken trust. The choice before him is simple, but the consequences are anything but. Ben's cold, calculating stare is a constant reminder of how far this goes. Jacob thought he was just digging into a small, personal mystery. What he's uncovered, though, is a monster, an all-encompassing web of corruption and deceit that stretches far beyond anything he could have imagined. As Ben steps closer, Jacob's mind flashes to the warning Lily had given him. Don't trust anyone. The words echo in his mind like a mantra. He thought it was just paranoia, but now it feels like the truth. There's a sickening realization that crashes over him. The conspiracy isn't just about me. It's bigger than anything he could have guessed. More people are involved, pulling strings behind the scenes, and Jacob's involvement was never a coincidence. They've been watching him all along. They knew exactly what he was capable of, and they'd been using him as a pawn in a game that's much darker than he ever realized. Ben's voice breaks through his thoughts. You still don't understand, do you? You think this is just about you? About the secrets you've uncovered? This goes much deeper than that, Jacob. You're in way over your head. But now, you're a part of it. Jacob's chest tightens. A part of it. His mind flashes to the conversations he's had, the small pieces of information he's gathered. What started as an investigation into a seemingly innocent mystery has spiraled into something far worse, a conspiracy that reaches into the highest echelons of power, something that's been in motion for years, maybe decades. People he thought he could trust, people he thought were on his side, have been pulling the strings all along. And now, it's too late to turn back. The door slams open behind him, and Jacob spins around, his heart stopping in his chest. Standing there, looking almost unrecognizable in the dim light, is Ethan. But this time, there's no hesitation in his eyes, no sign of friendship. Only cold determination. Jacob, it's over, Ethan says flatly, the words slicing through the air like a blade. You shouldn't have pushed this. You don't know what you're messing with. Jacob's stomach drops. Ethan. The last person he ever expected to turn on him. The betrayal cuts deeper than anything else. Ethan was supposed to be his ally, his friend. But now, it's clear. Ethan's been playing him all along. The pieces start to fall into place. Ethan was never just a friend. He was never just an innocent bystander. He's been part of this web from the beginning, working against Jacob, without him ever knowing. Why, Ethan? Jacob asks, his voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and anger. Why didn't you tell me? You knew everything, didn't you? You were a part of this. You knew it was bigger than just us. Ethan's expression doesn't change. It's not about you. It's never been about you. You were just a tool. A pawn in a much larger game. If you had stopped digging, you might have walked away from this. But now, it's too late for you. Jacob's head spins. He can barely process what he's hearing. This was never about a personal vendetta. This was never just a mystery. This was a carefully orchestrated plan, and he'd been in the middle of it the entire time without even realizing it. Ethan wasn't his friend. He was a player in the game. And now, Jacob's in too deep to escape. The room feels smaller, closing in on him as Ben steps forward. You see now, don't you? You're expendable. All of this, it was always about control.
Power.
People like you and me. He gestures between himself and Jacob. We're just tools to make sure the right people stay in charge.
But you?
You went too far. Now you're going to learn the price of that. Suddenly, Jacob feels something sharp press against his back. He doesn't need to look to know what it is. He can feel the cold barrel of a gun. His blood runs cold as Ben continues. You were warned, Jacob. But you didn't listen. Now you're not just in danger, you're a threat. And threats have to be dealt with. His mind races, his pulse pounding in his ears. This was never about uncovering the truth. This was about silencing him before he could expose it. And now, as everything unravels, Jacob realizes the true scale of the conspiracy. It's not just Ben. It's not just Ethan. This is something much larger. People in positions of power, people he never thought would be involved, have all been a part of this. And Jacob? He's the one they need to silence. A voice cuts through the tension, and for a brief moment, Jacob isn't sure if he's imagining it. But then, Lily steps into the room, her eyes wide with fear. Jacob, don't listen to them. You have to get out of here. It's the last thing he expected to hear. Lily, the woman he's been fighting to protect, is here, standing before him. She's been a part of this too. Her presence confirms it.
But why?
Why would she risk everything now? Lily, what's going on? Jacob breathes, his voice barely a whisper. She looks at him with desperation in her eyes.
You don't understand.
They're not just after you. They've been after all of us. They've been watching us. Watching you. You were never supposed to get this far. It was supposed to end before it ever began. Everything Jacob thought he knew is falling apart. The walls close in, the conspiracy deeper than he ever imagined. The danger is no longer distant. It's right in front of him. Ethan, Ben, and now Lily. Everyone has a role to play, and Jacob is the final piece of the puzzle. But what's the endgame? What are they truly after? And is there any way Jacob can escape before it's too late? The room goes silent, the weight of the moment unbearable. The answers are just out of reach. The questions are multiplying. And Jacob knows that whatever happens next, there's no going back. The conspiracy has him in its grip, and the stakes have never been higher. Jacob's heart pounds as he stands at the center of a room that feels far too small for the secrets it holds. The walls seem to close in on him, his breath shallow, his thoughts fragmented. The entire journey, everything he's uncovered, all the lies, the betrayals, the threats, has led him here. The final confrontation. His fingers tremble slightly as he reaches into his jacket pocket, gripping the small piece of evidence that had eluded him for days, a photograph that seemed too insignificant at first, but now holds the key to everything. A photograph that doesn't just explain why he's been targeted, but who's been orchestrating it all from the shadows. It's the last piece of the puzzle, and the truth it reveals shakes him to his core. The room is silent. The only sound, the heavy thud of Jacob's heart, the electric tension between him and the men who've cornered him, Ben, Ethan, and now Lily, standing across from him with a look that's as cold as the steel pressed against his back. It's over, Jacob, Ben says, his voice low, almost pitying, as if he's already won. But Jacob's gaze never wavers from the photograph in his hand. The truth is about to come crashing down, and they don't even realize it yet. You think this changes anything? Ethan sneers, his voice filled with contempt. You still don't get it. You've been played from the start. You were never supposed to find out. But now, you're just a loose end that needs to be tied up. Lily stands behind them, her face a mask of indifference. But Jacob can see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. This isn't the woman he thought he knew. This isn't the ally he thought he was fighting for. Her involvement in this, her betrayal, was the final knife in the back. But that doesn't matter now. It's time for the truth to surface, no matter the cost. Jacob steps forward, holding up the photograph for all of them to see. You want to know why I'm still standing here? Why I'm not running? Because of this. He holds the photo steady, his voice unwavering. This is the final piece, the piece you never thought I'd find. This is your downfall. The room freezes. Ben's expression shifts from smug to something darker, something more dangerous. His eyes narrow as he steps closer, trying to snatch the photograph from Jacob's hands, but Jacob pulls it back just out of reach. He knows what's on that photo. What's been hidden from him all along. The picture shows something unexpected, something no one had anticipated. Lily, standing side by side with Ben, shaking hands in front of a building with an insignia Jacob recognizes all too well. It's the same logo he saw on the documents he uncovered weeks ago, the ones that tied this entire conspiracy together. The ones that suggested there were people in power orchestrating all of it, pulling the strings of everyone Jacob trusted, everyone who had been feeding him lies. It's not just about the corruption in his town or the shady dealings behind the scenes. It's about a much deeper, much darker network, an international web of influence, manipulation, and control. Lily, Jacob breathes, his voice barely a whisper. You were working with them the entire time. You. His words catch in his throat as the weight of it all sinks in.
She wasn't just involved.
She was a key player in the game. Lily steps forward, her eyes cold and calculated. You don't understand, Jacob. This wasn't personal. This was never about you. This was about power. The kind of power we've been building for years. You were useful, just like everyone else. But now, you've become a liability. The words land like a punch to his gut. He thought he knew her. He thought he could trust her. But all along, she was working against him. She was never the ally he believed her to be. She's part of this conspiracy, an active participant in the machinery that's been controlling everything. Suddenly, the room seems to shift, the air thickening with an oppressive weight. Jacob feels it in his bones, the sense that this is it, the moment where everything will either shatter or be sealed forever. His body tenses, preparing for whatever comes next. But the one thing he didn't expect is the sudden feeling of coldness creeping up his spine, a sensation that has nothing to do with the room or the people standing in it. It's the sense that someone else is watching. Then it hits him. The final twist. A voice rings out from behind him, calm and eerily familiar. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Jacob turns, his stomach dropping as his eyes lock onto a new figure entering the room, someone he never expected to see again. His father. Standing in the doorway, his face expressionless, his eyes holding a secret Jacob couldn't have known. The man he thought had been dead for years, the man who had disappeared without a trace, is standing before him, like a ghost from the past. But this isn't a reunion. This isn't a time for healing or answers. This is something darker, something far more sinister. Dad. Jacob's voice breaks, the word leaving his lips before he can stop it. The shock is overwhelming, his mind struggling to piece together the impossible. His father, the man who was supposed to be gone forever, was never dead. He was here, watching, waiting, involved in all of this. You thought you could escape it, his father says, stepping forward. But you were always meant to be a part of this. You just didn't know it. His voice is cold, calculated, with a tone that leaves no room for misunderstanding. Everything you've done, everything you've uncovered, has been part of the plan. You've been groomed for this your entire life, Jacob. The room is suffocating now, the walls pressing in tighter as Jacob struggles to breathe, to comprehend. His father, his own flesh and blood, had been a part of this conspiracy from the start. And everything, every move Jacob had made, every truth he had uncovered, had been carefully manipulated. And in that moment, Jacob knows there is no escape. No one can be trusted. The conspiracy isn't just a few corrupt individuals. It's been a machine of power, of influence, and Jacob's entire life had been a cog in its gears. Now you have a choice, his father continues, his voice devoid of emotion. You can either join us and make this all go away, or you can continue to fight. But understand this, Jacob. We control everything. There is no way out. Jacob's mind races, his body shaking with a mix of rage and disbelief. He's surrounded by the people he thought he could trust, by his own blood, all working against him, all part of this enormous conspiracy. And in this moment, he realizes the terrifying truth. There is no escape. Not unless he's willing to sacrifice everything. But Jacob isn't ready to give up, not yet. Something deep inside him refuses to let go. There's still a chance, a final thread he can hold on to. The fight isn't over.
Not yet.
But before he can make a move, Ben steps forward, a gun in his hand, the weight of finality pressing down. And Jacob knows, deep in his gut, that this moment will determine everything. The choice is his. But at what cost? The silence is unbearable. The final twist of fate has arrived, and Jacob's next move will decide whether he walks away or whether he becomes part of the conspiracy forever. The sound of the gunshot echoes in Jacob's ears. But it's not what he expected. His entire body goes rigid, his heart skipping a beat as the moment stretches in an unbearable pause. But the shot never comes. Instead, a loud crash fills the room, and in a blur of movement, the figure standing beside Ben, his father, slumps to the floor, lifeless. The gun drops from Ben's hand as he stares down, disbelief etched across his face. Jacob's eyes widen, and his gaze flickers to the door where Lily stands, holding a gun of her own, a look of determination hardening her features. She lowers it slowly, not taking her eyes off Jacob. "You're not alone in this," Lily says quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I couldn't let him win. I couldn't be a part of it anymore." Jacob's mind is a whirlwind of confusion, shock, and a strange sense of relief, all colliding at once. His father is dead. Finally, the truth is out. But the price of this revelation is heavier than anything Jacob could have imagined. His world, everything he thought he understood, has been shattered, and though one enemy has been neutralized, the battle is far from over. There are still so many unanswered questions, so much left to untangle.
Who else is involved? What happens now?
Lily steps closer, but Jacob takes a hesitant step back, still processing the overwhelming weight of the truth. "You should have told me," he says, his voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted this. I didn't ask for any of this." His heart is heavy with betrayal, but beneath that weight, there's a flicker of gratitude, a spark of hope that he might finally have a chance to reclaim his life. Lily nods solemnly, her eyes filled with regret. "I couldn't. Not until it was too late. But I'm here now, and I'll help you, Jacob. There's more to this story than just us, but I promise you, we can take them down together." It's not the victory Jacob envisioned. It's not the closure he was hoping for. But it's a new beginning. One that will be full of challenges, of uncovering more secrets, of dismantling a far-reaching conspiracy that goes beyond his wildest fears. But he's not alone anymore. For the first time in a long time, Jacob feels a sense of purpose. He may not have all the answers yet, but he knows he's not walking this road by himself. But just as he starts to feel a slight sense of peace, something deep inside him stirs, a lingering doubt, a flicker of realization that this might not be the end after all. There's a quiet hum of danger that hasn't gone away. The conspiracy may have lost a key player, but there are others still in the shadows, waiting, watching, planning their next move. In the distance, Jacob hears the faintest sound of footsteps, and his body tenses. It's not over. Not by a long shot. The fight has just begun. The truth may have come out, but the consequences are only starting to unfold. Lily looks toward the door, her eyes narrowing. "We need to move.
Now."
There's someone you still haven't dealt with. The uncertainty is overwhelming, but Jacob isn't afraid anymore. The truth is no longer a weapon to be used against him. It's his shield now, and as long as he's breathing, he will keep fighting, keep uncovering the lies, keep pushing forward into the unknown. He looks at Lily, nods, and they both step toward the door. They have a long road ahead, but together, they can face whatever comes next. As they leave the room, the camera lingers on Jacob's face, showing the raw vulnerability, the quiet strength, and the quiet resolve that has taken root deep inside him. His eyes, though tired, are filled with determination. The world around him may be crumbling, but Jacob is finally in control of his fate. But just as the door clicks shut behind them, the screen fades to black. The sound of a phone buzzing on the table in the distance is the last thing the audience hears, and with that, the screen cuts to black.
The truth is out there.
But the war is far from over. And for Jacob, there is no turning back now.
End.